Welcome to the Ultimate Gaming Realm. And welcome to Lakeview Valley. And this is Dixon, logging on. Lakeview Valley, the murder RPG. Lakeview Valley is the title, and the murder RPG is a slogan for Lakeview Valley. Two keywords, Lakeview and murder. The two keywords have came together before, but where? Oh yes, now I remember. The Lakeview Cabin collection, which is a game I covered a few years ago. Some of you may already know that Lakeview Cabin game was originally a Flash game, but then they decided to make a game full of sequels into one game for digital distribution, which is a smart move. And the Lakeview Cabin collection are segments of gruesome horror stories that's been inspired by retro slasher horror flicks from the 70s and 80s in 2D side-scrolling retro gameplay style, and created by one man. Now, I'm not sure how to pronounce his name, so I'm just going to say his initials, RT. And the game with a keyword in its title, Lakeview, is a city. And with the other keyword, murder, is written all over this shady town. You don't have to see it to know it's there. Lakeview Valley was created by the same one guy of Lakeview Cabin. And Lakeview Valley was released in October of 2019. About a month later after I did the Lakeview Cabin collection review. But Lakeview Valley is different from Lakeview Cabin in its own right, because it's not a segment story side-scroller type. It's an overhead RPG story type, as described with the slogan. In fact, it's also a murder RPG, as described in the slogan. Which, murder doesn't have to be right away though. You may need some time to pull off your kills. Lakeview Valley is supposed to be like a sort of peaceful and quiet town. But there's also voices that you can hear coming out of trees, or from the sewers, or from the dumpsters, that tells you that a town of decent folks can be deceiving because they each have a dark secret of their own. Which is true. But at the same time, so can the main character. The story and gameplay of Lakeview Valley has a similar reference to other RPG games. Stardew Valley and Animal Crossing. Except Lakeview Valley is a murder RPG game. Lakeview Valley seems to be a nice town. But there's tons of plot twists and surprises. You'll see what I mean. A murder mystery waiting to be solved. A dead girl lying in the street with a confusing history. Confusing is right. So it's up to you to either solve or ignore the main story. Now, after you create your own character, the story starts with you riding the bus into town, and near the entranceway to Lakeview Valley, the bus driver was trying to get my attention on the way. While distracting himself, he ran over a girl. Fucking idiot. So I'm now on foot. After entering town, you will get a greeting from the sheriff to get your house key and have papers for you to sign. Now, for some odd fucking reason, the investigation of the hit-and-run accident waited later on that night. And the bus driver just went to the diner shortly after the accident, like nothing happened. So the accident wasn't reported during the daytime. For some reason, the bus driver got a slap on the wrist. And the bus remained on the street in that same spot with blood on the front. But the body was removed after the investigation. Boy, that's fucked up. But you still haven't seen nothing yet compared to that accident. There are a few things lurking in the dark, and sometimes even in the day. Nights can be very dangerous in the valley. You must either evade or defend yourself against these horrifying enemies, if you come across them. Lakeview Valley also has multiple endings. Depending on your moral choices, they will change how the story progresses. Lakeview Valley can be replayable after you make it to the end. The game takes 1 week, which can be different according to the way you play. You know, it just came to my mind. In another way, Lakeview Valley reminds me of another game I covered a few years ago. Kindergarten. Except kindergarten games, it's on one day. The first kindergarten game is on a Monday, and the second kindergarten game is on a Tuesday. I think you get the point. I'll leave a link below for you to see for yourselves if you haven't checked it out yet. Lakeview Valley has plenty of items, tools, and upgrades to help you move forward in the game. Or to cause mayhem. Like turning the town of Lakeview Valley into a slaughterhouse. Lakeview Valley has over 20 NPCs with schedules for day and night. Each character has a unique backstory. All you need to do is rise in popularity to dive deeper into their lives. Lakeview Valley even has a crime scene system. Sheriff will investigate every night for any mischief. If you're responsible for the crime, make sure you don't leave any evidence nor witnesses. Now that's a real fun way to come to a challenge. Play a game of Catch Me If You Can to determine on how high my IQ is or how sloppy I am on the job. Providing if I choose the serial killer route or any crime route for that matter. Now, it's not difficult to tell that the creator of both Lakeview Cabin and Lakeview Valley has slasher horror film elements. But also for Lakeview Valley, this one seems to have elements from Twin Peaks all around. I already mentioned that you can customize your own character. Be who you want. That's the first thing you do in the game after you create a profile. Create your character. Except when you're replaying the game after completing the first week on the same profile. You can also do home renovation, upgrade your surroundings to impress your neighbors, or to gain a strategic edge. Now, Lakeview Cabin is pretty much straight to the point and gruesome, but Lakeview Valley has a different way of how the game progresses and a life simulation style. And living in a nice and peaceful town to make new friends, make a living, and recreation for everyone including yourself, and build up popularity surrounding you. But everyone in Lakeview Valley has a dark secret. And many of the town folks are not aware that Lakeview Valley has a curse. It's that the devil and his minions are hiding everywhere. And precisely watching everything you all do, or have been doing. And you never know when or where they will pop out from. Or as a matter of fact, you'll never know whose head they're going to jump into to corrupt your mind to do insane evil things. But between good and evil, there's perks on each side. And you can time travel once you make it to the end to reset the week with the perks you gain to set a different course. Just like Lakeview Cabin, Lakeview Valley does have tons of surprises the more you progress throughout the game. But I'm not going to spoil anything, or at least anything more, because you're all going to have to buy the game to find out for yourselves. This is where I draw the line. Now, my personal thoughts on Lakeview Valley. RT took a different direction with the gameplay and the story compared to his predecessor, Lakeview Cabin. RT put a lot of effort in with a role-playing game story and with a decent narrative surrounding the character and the non-playable characters. I love the fact that this time RT made an RPG version of his vision. It's like a hometown life simulator where he can be the most popular homeowner by doing favors for other townfolks, or being someone possessed by your dark desires in order to be deceptive around certain individuals at a certain time during the whole week. But you have choices that comes with consequences between good and evil. I also love the idea where you start out as a normal Lakeview Valley resident to a serial killer of Lakeview Valley. Lakeview Valley can be a peaceful residential neighborhood that can turn the neighborhood into a bloodbath. I guess that's another way of putting it. Like Lakeview Cabin, Lakeview Valley is a fucked up game in the head. And that's what I love about it. I also love the fact after making it through 1 week, depending on how you advance, you can start over again. To make some kind of sense in a different way on your second playthrough, or your third one, depending on how many playthroughs you want to go through. Plus you can keep your perks, upgrades, and the money you had since the end of the last playthrough. That's really awesome. Now the downside of Lakeview Valley is that it can get boring and repetitive after a while, especially with many playthroughs. Now I put in 23 hours of my life into Lakeview Valley and I still haven't went through all the nooks and crannies of the game. I started getting bored of the game from there on, and I need to move on with other projects. Might go back into the game someday, but I'm not guaranteeing when, or if. Lakeview Valley is a great game, and it's on Steam, and I would recommend it. But I would actually prefer the Lakeview Cabin Collection more. And speaking of Lakeview Cabin Collection, there's now a Lakeview Cabin Collection 2 on Steam in early access. I haven't got to it yet, but it's in my queue. That pretty much wraps it all up. Thank you all very much for watching. This is Dixon exiting Lakeview Valley, and this is Dixon of the Ultimate Gamer Realm logging off.